to our aging puzzle. I am your host, Corlette Deveaux. Our show is about aging and how it affects all of us. We will have one-on-one conversations with guests from all walks of life that have been impacted by life and aging. Whether they are seniors, middle-aged, or young, we will bring their inspiring stories to you. We will hear tear-jerking and uplifting stories about relevant topics, health issues, and habits to live longer and live better. June is Men's Health Month. Our guest this month is Scott Johnson. His story will surely bring tears to your eyes as he shares his inspiring journey of overcoming prostate cancer. Remember, we had Scott for the first 3 weeks? This last week, Scott will share information about his path to recovery and his path of remission from prostate cancer. There will be one guest on our show for the entire month. As we did with Scott, we will walk you through our guest journey week after week. Remember, week 1, you will hear the big reveal. How did they hear the news they will be sharing with us, and how did they feel? Week 2, they will take us through their process to select treatment. And week 3, we will hear about their treatment, side effects, what it was like, everything. And week 4, we will hear the post-treatment results and their path of remission. So join us every week to hear our guest's journey. Our sponsor is DG Incorporated. DG Incorporated is a marketing and business development powerhouse, providing business coaching, strategic guidance, marketing, and tactical services to its clients. DG Incorporated helps clients unleash their business potential and growth. So, let's jump into facts about aging. The number of Americans over 65 will reach 95 million by 2060. 7 out of 10 people will require assisted living care in their lifetime. Wow. There are approximately 30,000 assisted living facilities operating in the United States, with more than 810,000 seniors residing in these facilities. The U.S. will need another 1 million senior living facilities by 2040. With this significant growth in the senior population, there is a gap and a huge need to provide services to care for seniors. Some of these services include assisted living facilities and socialization options. June is Men's Health Month. Before we bring our guest on today, let's take a look at a few prostate cancer statistics. Sadly, Black men are 1.7 times more likely to be diagnosed with prostate cancer than white men. And Black men are 2.1 times more likely to die from prostate cancer than white men. 1 in 6 Black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime. You can learn more about how prostate cancer disproportionately affects Black and African American men by visiting zerocancer.org. Now it's time to welcome our special guest, Scott Johnson, my spouse. He is a family man, a father, architect, professional, entrepreneur, and survivor of prostate cancer. This week, Scott will walk us through our family's process to select the best treatment for him and for us. And finally, he will talk about his path of recovery and remission to prostate cancer. So I'd like to ask you to welcome my special guest, Scott Johnson. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you sharing our story with the guest of our show.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Today we will be hearing from Scott about his journey to selecting treatment for prostate cancer. Scott, I know it was difficult for our family as we were going through this process. Please share with us the process that you went through to select the treatment options that was best for you, that was best for us, to treat your prostate cancer.
Well, thank you for asking, and it was very overwhelming. It was a situation where you didn't really know what was coming at all. So the fact gathering information was tremendous. Many doctor visits, many opinions, and to a certain extent, I felt like every doctor that you saw wanted you to go with their course of action, their type of treatment that they were able to provide. So you had to sit through that and choose what was best. So many options: traditional radiation, surgery, proton radiation, which is a proton therapy, drugs, in addition to some of the old school types of things, which are seeds and radiation is a part of that. So once we went through that whole process, then the biggest challenge was to get it approved. So this is a costly process. The insurance company rejected my treatment. They came back and said, you don't need proton therapy, which is what I talked about before, where they make the mold and so forth. And at that point where you have to go through all that, they didn't want to do that at all. Okay, so now you have to fight to get it done. You're like, oh wow, I made the decision. I have to get this treatment, but they're not going to pay for it. Well, they said, you're not worth $1 million to pay for it. So you had to go to battle for that. I afterwards find out that that's just kind of the way they do it. They want you to do it the most cost-effective way. So that whole process was exhausting, and I hadn't even started treatment yet.
Wow. You know, it is so interesting what Scott said. The insurance company did not want to pay the $1 million that would cost for him to have proton therapy treatment. Are the options for your health and the decisions that you make based on how much it's going to cost, or based on the best outcome for the individual? It was difficult for our family. And Scott, I know it was very, very difficult to go through this. Please share with the audience the downside or the pros and the cons that we looked at for the traditional therapy and why we decided not to go with that.
Okay. So when I finally went back in and gathered all this information and sat with my urologist, it's like, let me bring in my partner and so forth. We're scheduling surgery immediately. I'm like, whoa, that's not happening. Okay, that's not the course of action that I want at all. With that, my urologist, fantastic. I still see him and so forth, but his traditional form of treatment was not what I wanted to do. The downside with the surgery is that you can have all kinds of male dysfunction problems, you can have urinary problems, you can have all kinds of scarring, and there's no guarantee with any of this, but the risk was high that I could have a problem. So no to that. The traditional radiation creates so much radiation into your body, you can't target the area so that the particles go all over. So I wasn't going to do that. So basically, after my consultation in Miami, that's the course that I chose. Not one doctor, even my primary urologist, agreed. It's like, no, that makes no sense. That's crazy. He goes, why do you want to do that? There's not enough facts. I go, that's what I'm doing.
Yes, yes. You know, so traditional therapy, as Scott mentioned, was not an option for him, for our family, based on the side effects, based on the risk that he would encounter based on male side effects. And we discussed it as a family, and we decided not to go that direction. Scott also mentioned that the doctors told him not to go with the proton therapy because that's not what they typically do. And we pushed and we went to get approval, and it took time. And we stuck through this whole process as a family, even though it was difficult. Share some of the share some of the emotions that we went through with this whole process, because it is very difficult. It is a very emotional time for the individual going through this as well as their family. So let's talk about some of the emotions and things that we went through as we were selecting your treatment process, because it was really in-depth. It was very emotional, and it took a lot of time for us to actually decide on this, combing through all of the information day after day. Please share that with our audience so they will know that it's not going to be an easy road.
Yeah,
they can make it through.
The process was excruciating. It just, you know you have cancer. You're told by your primary urologist, your primary doctor, that, Scott, you need to address this now. Or he goes, you're a young guy. He goes, if you were much older, probably something else is going to take your life. But if you don't address this now, make a decision soon, it's going to kill you. It will catch up to you. It will spread through your body, and it'll take your life. So that's wearing on you every moment. You have to gather all this information. You have to move quickly, and you have to make the right decision, because it's life or death. Now, with that, and then you have the insurance company coming back saying, we're not going to cover the treatment you chose. You're like, oh my gosh. In the meantime, you're on a cancer-derivative drug, Lupron, that just sucked all the life out of you, that you know, quote unquote, my doctor said, puts the cancer to sleep. Doesn't cure you, it just slows down the growth. Now, at that point, you're in such limbo, but you're fighting, finally got it approved, and it's just like you're looking at this long road ahead, and you had to do it a day by day basis, because if you look at from the time you discover it until when I'm going to finally be cured, you can't look at it that way. It's just too much to absorb. So it was trying, but I had a great support group, and we got through it, and didn't think I would, honestly.
It was difficult. It's even difficult to talk about it. It's difficult. Difficult does not mean impossible. Scott, the proton therapy that we looked at and actually decided to go with, share with the audience why that was the best option for you in terms of the side effects as well as the outcomes.
So the proton therapy, one of the deciding factors on that was not only that because it's very precise, it targets the area of where you have the problem, where you have the cancer, but in addition to that, it limits the exposure to other parts of your body. So it's going to get the cancer and create the least amount of damage. But the telltale fact that kind of put me over the edge was this treatment's being used on children with brain cancer and people that have a much more severe situation than I had. I'm like, wow, if they're using it on them, that seems to be the safest way to go. Right? When you're seeing children being wheeled in and out on a gurney and are getting treatment, you're like, this is the safest way. And the research is not as in-depth as traditional research, but I didn't have any doubt this was the way to go. No doubt at all.
Fantastic. And we selected proton therapy, and there are still disadvantages to everything, but you want to look at what's right for your family. And we discussed it as a family and came up with this solution for us. And as Scott mentioned, it wasn't easy, but we did it. We went through it together. The most important thing when you're going through something like this is having your family and having a support system, right, Scott?
Absolutely. If you try to do this on your own, and this is just life in general, but that's why when you have things that happen in life, you have that network, you have that support, and it made it easier. Every day was brutal, but you just checked it off, get this, so even when you're done with treatment, you're not done, so it's been a number of years and still going in just to make sure I'm okay, which I am. But, if you look at the big picture, you just, like maybe starting school. If you think, oh, I'm going to go to school for 6 years, and like, wow, that's a long road, and you give up. No, you just got to look at it and say it's a semester at a time or whatever it might be.
Fantastic. Scott selected treatment. You heard him. He went with the proton therapy and the Lupron combination. Next week, we will talk to Scott. We'll speak with you next week, Scott, about the treatment that you went through, and you will share with us some of the pros and the cons and how you felt and how you made it through. So join us next week. Scott will share with us the actual treatment, what it was like, everything. Thank you, Scott, for joining us today. We do appreciate you, and our family is solidified. We work together to get through this.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week, Scott.
Sure will.
Thank you. Thank you to our guest, Scott Johnson, as he shared his tear-jerking story with us. Let's look at habits to live longer and live better. We recommend doing 4 things. 1, proper diet. Eat a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables and low-fat dairy products. Number 2, regular exercise. Regular exercise can help older adults stay independent and prevent many health problems that come with age. 3, reduce stress. It is essential to look after your mental well-being as much as possible. Eliminate unnecessary stress. 4, socialization. It is good to have a support system of compassionate and supportive individuals, and it is just as important to spend time with them to help you feel good and add quality to your life. Just as Scott Johnson shared with us his support system at home with his family. Again, thank you to our guest, Scott Johnson. To learn more about prostate cancer, visit zerocancer.org. To learn more about our sponsor, DG Incorporated, visit their website at www.deveauxgroup.com or follow them on LinkedIn at DG Incorporated. We invite you to watch our show, Our Aging Puzzle, every Friday at 8 p.m. You can follow us on our YouTube channel at Our Aging Puzzle. Thank you for joining us today on Our Aging Puzzle. We hope to see you next time. Happy Father's Day to all of the men out there. Voila!